Hello and welcome. My name is Dick Faderly. I'm a Senior Manager from OTB Solutions, a management consultancy specializing in leveraging the power of SharePoint 2010 as an integration platform for your core line of business systems. Specifically in this presentation, we will be discussing integrating some key features of SharePoint 2010 with SAP. This is a recording of a presentation that we gave at the SharePoint conference with K2 in Anaheim on October the 4th, 2011. In this presentation, we will discuss why you should consider using SharePoint 2010 as a front end to your core mission-critical applications. We will also show you a conceptual demo of how you can use SharePoint 2010 as a UX replacement. While the specific business processes here are core human resources functionality, the ideas captured in this presentation apply equally well to all other areas of process automation. We'll also spend a little bit of time discussing the architectural considerations in leveraging these kinds of solutions and some of the key takeaways we have learned in our work with integrating SharePoint and SAP and other mission-critical applications. Chief among these considerations are the potential for the SharePoint platform to drive user adoption and access to core business systems while maintaining information and process integrity. All this while eliminating the core shortcomings of most transactional or mission-critical applications. As you can see from the shortlist provided here, there are huge advantages to be gained in usability and process improvements through the use of the SharePoint platform. That, coupled with the human-centric workflow capabilities of SharePoint and K2, make for a compelling reason to integrate SharePoint 2010 with SAP. Let's discuss now some of the pain points experienced by key stakeholders when considering the deployment of solutions like these. Typically, you find most mission-critical applications are used by highly trained personnel, and that access is tightly controlled and severely limited to ensure integrity in process and data. Additionally, we find that attempts at implementing self-service applications fail due to shortcomings in the user experience, which lead to poor user adoption. So while the value of these kinds of solutions is apparent to most concerned, system owners are hesitant to open access up because they are responsible for ensuring the continued successful processing of the system, which is critical to the business. Managers, because of the shortcomings of the native application, find access to critical and timely information nearly impossible. This hinders decision-making and slows the accomplishments of key tasks. And more generally, employees throughout the organization are confronted by awkward and poorly coordinated processes which rely upon the use of actual paper forms or email threads which increase errors, duplicate efforts, and dramatically reduces overall effectiveness throughout the organization. So imagine, if you will, a sort of nirvana, one in which access to key business data and processes can be distributed throughout the organization, enabling decision-making and removing core process bottlenecks, all while maintaining process and data integrity. Being able to unlock the rich business data found in core systems and enabling self-service throughout the organization can drive huge economies and foster greater innovation and process efficiencies. So the question remains, how do you get there? We will discuss one approach during the remainder of this presentation which focuses on leveraging the key capabilities of K2 and SharePoint to access information in SAP and design processes which leverage and update that data. And in the case of this demo, all without developer-produced code. So let's get right to it. What we will be showing in this conceptual demo is the ability to create a user experience in SharePoint 2010 which is highly branded, doesn't look like SharePoint, and certainly doesn't look like SAP. So let's take a closer look at that user experience. As you can see here, this site doesn't look like SharePoint out of the box. However, it leverages all of the capabilities of the SharePoint platform, including navigation, out-of-the-box web parts, integration with search, including business connectivity services, and a focus on a clean, highly readable, uncluttered interface. Now let's jump into the integration portion of this demo. When we look at surfacing data from SAP, it's not about reproducing the user experience within SAP, but rather about being able to surface that information and those processes in the context of who that user is and what they are trying to accomplish. In this instance, understanding that the person that is logged in is a manager and has direct reports allows us to audience target content specifically to them. This is being done using the user profile service and audience targeting capabilities native to SharePoint. When coupled with the rich information about personnel found in SAP and linking that with the information that is kept in Active Directory, you can see that a highly targeted user experience can be achieved. Let's first look at a process that would be common to all employees in an organization: updating W-4 information. As you can see on this page, it looks almost exactly like a printed W-4 form. This was created in InfoPath. With InfoPath, you have a rich client-side processing available, such as validation and edits, allowing you to reduce errors and round trips to SAP, vastly improving the user experience. Additionally, you can see here that we are pulling in information from SAP to pre-populate the form, further reducing errors and improving the user experience. Clear messaging is returned to the user indicating whether or not the action was successful, and the user can move on to the next task. All of this was accomplished by pushing this directly into SAP using WinShuttle scripts published as web services, which leverage all of the business investments developed in the SAP GUI by the process owners. Another key aspect to process improvement is not just making information available, but allowing and facilitating the end user to take action based upon that information. In the case illustrated here, we are using business connectivity services to surface employee data and to expose specific business processes that are available to the manager of those employees. The case that we will demonstrate here is a complex workflow largely managed by SAP in the creation and staffing of positions within SAP. However, the actual decision and action taken by the hiring manager is typically done outside of the SAP system. The resultant paperwork and processes are awkward and often result in long delays in the actual hiring of staff. As you can see from this InfoPath form, we are retrieving information from SAP regarding the candidate in question and based upon the position we are hiring for, and have already populated it with the pertinent information. In some cases, none of this information may be available for update by the hiring manager. In others, for instance for salaried employees, there may be rules around how far a manager can deviate from the salary grade. These deviations can be handled through workflows within SharePoint and K2, and after approval, processed within SAP. Further, SharePoint 2010 can support electronic signatures and other audit requirements as needed. One of the powerful capabilities of SharePoint is its support for workflow. In some cases, as demonstrated here, richer workflows integrating with multiple systems is desired. In those cases, K2 can be integrated with SharePoint to support those needs and still reduce or eliminate the need for developer-produced code. This is key to driving an optimal total cost of ownership while delivering a highly functional business solution. In the case of the K2 workflow shown here, we have integrated the new hire process with the provisioning of a user account in Active Directory, as well as the email box in Exchange. The information regarding the user's email is also fed back into SAP, closing the loop, so to speak, and eliminating the need for manual processing or custom interfaces between the systems. K2 is accessing all of these capabilities through their standard interfaces for Active Directory, Exchange, and web services for access to SAP. We think solutions enabled by the combination of SharePoint 2010 and K2 are incredibly powerful in their ability to surface and interact with mission-critical information, all while reducing the requirement for custom-developed code and leveraging the massive investments made by the business in SAP. This, coupled with the core capabilities of SharePoint 2010 and WinShuttle, enable the business to respond more rapidly to a changing market environment and to innovate faster than their competition. So for those IT professionals listening to this recording, I want to geek out for a minute and talk about the architecture. In developing the solution, we leverage key capabilities from ISV partners, WinShuttle and K2. With WinShuttle transaction scripts published as web services, you can access the RPC layer of SAP, thereby leveraging the extensive investments made by the business in the SAP GUI. That does beg the question, what about SAP Duet? Duet is a joint investment by Microsoft and SAP, offering a powerful set of tools upon which to build solutions within the SharePoint 2010 environment. Core to Duet is its exposure of business entities from SAP as web services, which can be directly consumed by SharePoint in business connectivity services. Duet supports the CRUD activities and exposes customer, employee, product, customer inquiry, and customer quote entities. So why would you want to consider using WinShuttle if SAP and Microsoft have developed this? We think for some very valid reasons. Since Duet is an ABAP add-on, all of the investments that the business has made in the SAP GUI in terms of workflow and edits will need to be replicated in whatever solutions are developed using Duet. Additionally, SAP and Microsoft have only provided these capabilities on the latest versions of both platforms, and there are no plans to support earlier releases. This can present some challenges or make this tool unavailable for any efforts in the near to mid-term. That being said, we see these two technologies as highly complementary. If your SAP install can support Duet, then the availability of those core business entities, exposed through the BCS, can greatly speed the development of solutions on the SharePoint platform. Coupled with WindShuttle, the ability to leverage the existing investments in business process through the SAP GUI by publishing transaction scripts as web services, means that you can rapidly develop robust, rich end-user applications to address business-critical needs in record time. So really, what does this all boil down to? We think we've learned some key lessons over the years of integrating these types of solutions with SharePoint. Among these are: select the combination of architecture components that get you the furthest fastest, and drive to a total cost of ownership which makes sense for your situation. Keep it simple. When you first start out, don't try necessarily to solve the most intractable problem in the organization out of the gate. With a combination of SharePoint and WindShuttle, you can create a portfolio of initiatives which identify low-hanging fruit that you can cut your teeth on and drive early wins in the organization. Also, we recommend launch cycles of 3 months or fewer to make sure that you stay focused on the most critical business needs. When creating workflows either within SharePoint or those leveraging the K2 capabilities shown in this demo, keep them simple. There is a tendency to account for all contingencies and to provide multiple routes for escalation and resolution. While these workflows may look good on paper, they typically are not supportable even in the near term once deployed, or are frequently not usable. As I've hoped we've said throughout this presentation, this is largely not a technology problem, but rather a user experience problem. That is not to say that there are not significant technological hurdles and efforts to be expended in the creation of these solutions. However, the long pole in the tent is more likely to be human interaction design and usability than any particular technical hurdle to be overcome. And lastly, we don't think we can overemphasize this. Leverage the rich ISV ecosystem that Microsoft has developed around the SharePoint platform. If during the process of designing a solution you hear the words, "I can do that faster in," or "I can do that better with," it probably means that more thorough research is needed to understand the full capabilities of WindShuttle and K2. So in closing, we at OTB Solutions feel that a key aspect to us delivering value to our clients is in our ability to bring engineering rigor and design thinking to all solutions we propose. Clearly, no matter how elegant a solution is, if the end users cannot or will not use it, it's a failure. I wanted to thank you for taking the time today to listen to this recording, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have. You can find us at our website at www.otbsolutions.com. Thank you again for listening.